Old school 38 special versus new school 38 special, and what we have today is some old school lead semi wad cutters, and some of these are the FBI loads, and I'm going to use a 3-inch barrel revolver to test these. So I'm going to use my 3-inch barrel Taurus 856 to test this ammunition, because back in the day it was a Smith & Wesson Model 13 with a 3-inch barrel that the FBI used, and this was one of the official loads that they use. This is the Federal 158 grain lead semi wad cutter hollow point, and it is a +P. And Dan the Wolfman sent this stuff for me to test. He sent these 38 special loads, our Federal, and then he sent a PPU, which is a standard pressure 158 grain lead semi wad cutter, to kind of compare to see how those two will do compared to each other out of this 3-inch revolver. And we kind of bounced ideas off each other, and I thought it would kind of be interesting if we tested one of the only law enforcement 38 special loads that exists, and that is the 135 grain +P short barrel by Gold Dot. This is one of the few 38 special loads that are still allowed to be used in backup revolvers by law enforcement, one of the approved loads. So I think that'd be a very interesting test to test these. And by the way, Dan the Wolfman sent me these fantastic wood grips. These are his own wood grips. They have a wolf on them, just really well done. And you can find these over at customwolfgrips.com or premiumgrips.com. I am not a wood grip expert, but I've read a lot of stuff about these, and from my understanding, a lot of times wood grips don't fit very well, and the seams and everything are not perfect. But these, they are very, very nice, very perfect fit. So he sent that over as a Christmas gift to me, so thank you Dan for sending that to me, and for this ammunition. So what we're going to do with our ballistic test, a little bit different today. I'm going to just fire one round into the ballistics gel, and I'm going to try to go over the chronograph as I do this. But we're going to do our real world simulation here, just our real world simulation. I got 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch medium density fiber board after 3 inches of clear ballistics. So what I want to do is I want to compare our +P semi wad cutter hollow point to our standard pressure, our cheaper version, and to compare those to the Gold Dot. But then after that, I want to do kind of a real world simulation of a hard barrier. So what I have here is some 22 gauge steel, which is on the thin side, but for my own safety, I wanted to make sure that the bullets would go through this. That's why I did a preliminary test recently where I shot 32 long from about 20 yards to see if it would go through this. The lead stuff did not, but you know, regular 32 FMJ went through, so I'm not really concerned. So we're going to do just our real world simulation. Then after that, I am going to put up a steel barrier here and see if there's a difference between some of those old school lead hollow points versus a truly bonded bullet, those Speer Gold Dots. And then after that, I'm going to shoot at the steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, so our standard pressure is a PPU. I'm not sure if I mentioned that the brand was PPU, but PPU, a lead hollow point, standard pressure. Then we have our Federal, this is the official FBI load, +P, and then we have our Speer Gold Dot. So we're just going to go into our normal clear ballistic test. 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch medium density fiber board, and see how these all compare. I'm going to see if I can get a velocity read with these. So what we got going on here is our PPU first, 158 grain lead semi wad cutter hollow point. 739 feet per second. Let's see if our Federal does any better. Federal +P. 857 feet per second. So definitely a lot more power going on with that. Now we have our Speer Gold Dot. 920 feet per second. Let's go take a look at that. Let me do one more Gold Dot in a little bit different position here. It looks like I went through a similar channel. So Gold Dot again. 958 feet per second. Now let's go take a look. All right, all these I got very similar spots on those MDF, but it does look like they got their own, area of MDF. These sights on this Taurus are terrible. I was trying to aim way up here and way down here, but they just want to kind of go centered here. So what we got going on here with our PPU, it's hard to see from this angle, but it doesn't really look like we have any expansion going on with that, but we have a penetration of 16 inches. Now with our lead hollow point, we have a penetration of about 14.5 inches with our Federal +P. Now, interesting thing here is our gold dot's got the same penetration with both those shots, so I'd say that makes it duly a good number to read here, and both of those are at 13 inches of penetration. So yeah, honestly, for penetration, they're all pretty similar, but it does look like our gold dot has bigger expansion. So let's put up that barrier. I'm going to move this all back a little bit, put up that barrier, and have a little bit of a gap here. It's going to kind of represent a car door, sort of, and we'll see how they compare that way. All right, so our barrier simulation test here, we have 22 gauge steel. Some of the newer cars do use that thin of a steel. I know that older cars are a lot thicker, but again, for my safety's sake, I want to make sure these things will go through. And with this test, again, for my safety, I'm only going to do the +P rounds. We're going to do the old school lead hollow point and the gold dot, because I want to make sure these things will go through. So I'm going to go through that steel. Hopefully I can hit this gel block here going through the steel. So let's try our lead hollow point here. Let's go take a look. Wow, was not expecting that at all. I didn't put up another gel block back there as I didn't think it was going to go through, but let me set up the gel block again, another one behind that, and try to catch this. All right, let's try it again with our lead hollow point by Federal. See if we can catch this thing. All right, let's go take a look. And interesting with that, we got completely different results. I mean, I did hit very similar spot, but there are clearly two different holes there. So I guess that was just a one-off with that steel. So let me shoot lower and try to hit our gold dot in here now. All right, Speer gold dot. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. Interesting, it curved up, hit the other bullet, curved down. I guess let me try one more. All right, I'm gonna try to go even lower on this. One more Speer gold dot. Let's go take a look. And just like before at the Federal, it's very, very close, but it did create its own hole here. So yeah, it's very difficult to line these things up exactly where I want them to go. But I think I did a good enough job that we can kind of tell what's going on with these. So I'll move this forward so we can take a look here at its total penetration. That first one went right through this gel block, which is interesting. So that's like 19 inches of penetration. It went straight through. But then our second one, it stopped right here. Our channel goes to about 11 3/4 inches. Now when we look at our gold dot, our first one went to about 12 1/4. Our second one went to about 15 1/4. So it's really hard to judge this, because why did that first one go through? It went through its own piece of fresh MDF and all of that, and it zipped right through. The second one didn't go very far. So not super consistent. That could just be from the way it's deforming. It's just randomly deforming differently going through that steel. But our gold dots here, those those did fine. Those are more consistent. And it looks like the bullets are mangled less. So yeah, judging this, we can definitely see that new school ammo is a little bit better, because the shots I made through our normal MDF with our gold dots expanded really good and did not penetrate that far, as were our lead ones, very mediocre expansion. And then when we go through our barrier here, this is exactly how they're designed to be. A lot of people think that bonded bullets are meant to pass through a barrier and then expand. That is absolutely not how they are designed. They are designed in such a way that when they hit something fleshy, they will expand out really big. But if they hit something hard, they will not expand at all, as to hold together that bullet and not fragment. So when we look at hard barrier penetration, our gold dot did absolutely perfect. As were these old school rounds, not so much. So interesting here. So let me shoot the steel, see what kind of accuracy I can get on the steel with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through our standard ballistic test. There is a little bit of a difference here between our +P and our standard pressure lead semi-wad cutter hollow point. Here's that PPU. Didn't do bad, and there's a little deformation of that bullet, but nothing that I would consider meaningful expansion. Now, our Federal version here actually does have some expansion here. So that definitely looks a little bit better than our PPU. Not too bad overall, to be honest. Now our gold dots. There's our first shot with the gold dot. Pretty decent expansion. Looks like it went through a lot of fabric there and MDF. Now our second shot, we may have missed some of that fabric and MDF, because it is expanded a lot bigger here. So this might not be truly fair in my type of ballistic testing, but it's not bad overall. Both of them had pretty good expansion. Now things change up quite a bit here when we go through our car door simulation. Big difference here. Now the back of this bullet here on our Federal one that was impacted by one of the gold dots there, but it doesn't really change what we're going to see here. This is the front of the bullet. This is what we got. And honestly, that's not bad. I believe Federal actually uses a little bit harder alloy than some of the other FBI loads. Like Remington has their own, Winchester has their own, but Federal's has the hardest lead alloy. So a lot of agents back in the day would like this one because it has a harder lead alloy. It is going to go through a barrier a little bit better. So it's honestly not bad for what it is. Now when we look at our gold dot first shot here, or our second shot, pretty much identical. And this is exactly how they are designed to perform. They're not designed to punch through and then expand out. I don't know where people got that idea, but they think that. They think it's supposed to, expand out in hard stuff. A lot of people think that hollow points will expand out really big in drywall and not go through to another room. And that's the opposite how they're designed. They're designed to hold together when they hit something hard, when you're talking a bonded hollow point. And they are going to go deep through a hard barrier. So the way these performed are actually perfect. So if we take a look here, here's all our gold dots here. And I coincidentally had to fire 2 through each though, but let's just take a look here at this. So here's our gold dot, regular test through barrier, and then our Federal regular test through barrier. Not a huge difference, but I'm going to say our gold dot's just a little bit better, a little bit more consistent. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, 12 yards from the target, so I am out of the gold dot. I just brought some that I had around, but we have some full cylinders full of the PPU and the Federal here. So we got our PPU. These are about mid 700 feet per second, and then our P were like mid 800 feet per second. So I'm gonna see how the PPU do and then try the Federal. By the way, if anybody's ever wondered, this is a Smith & Wesson Model 10 HKS speed loader. Works pretty well for the 6-shot Taurus 856. So I'm just gonna hold center mass, see how these standard pressure PPUs do for accuracy. Those are just fantastic to shoot. Very low recoil out of a gun like this. And there goes my reload. It looks like I didn't set these things in the speed loader very well. I've used this a bunch of times for the 856, so it's not something wrong here with this loader. I just didn't turn the knob all the way, so I had to lose those. But we'll see how our Federal does here. Federal plus P, see if it's harder to control these. You know, it is harder to control them, but it's not enough to make really any difference at all for me. I think I have a couple rounds of these left. I'm going to pop them off from further out just for fun, see if I can hit the target. Already 75 yards from the target just for fun. I have 3 of the standard pressure PPUs and then 1 of those Federals left. So I just want to see for fun if I can hit this target. So here's our PPUs. There's our Federal. Oh, I did notice that these things were shooting probably 5 feet to the left at that distance, and that's a known problem I have with this revolver. I don't know why. It's like the barrel's bent, and it's been back to Taurus like 6 times. They won't fix it, but anyways, looking at this ammo here, interesting to do this comparison. I thought there would honestly be a much wider difference on what we saw here. Now, penetration wise, you know, all very similar in our standard test here, and also very similar through our barrier, but it just seems like the modern ammunition is very consistent, as where some of the old school stuff, you know, what we saw is you're not really sure what's going to happen. And you know, honestly, when I look at that Federal going through that auto body simulation there, I could see why that would happen. You know, just a little bit of difference in velocity might change the way that thing mushrooms when it hits that, and it's inconsistent, so you're not really going to know if it's going to fragment out big and then hit the gel, or if whether it's going to hold together, smush in, and then go way too deep. As where with our gold dot, it's at least very consistent here. Now, our standard gel test with the PPU, that's actually not bad. It was very consistent as far as how it shot, very low recoil. It got good penetration. It did not over penetrate. So I would say actually that's not a bad choice if that's all you had. You're not going to get expansion, and there's just no way around that. Now, our Federal here, we really didn't get much expansion with that either. I mean, a little bit, but it just wasn't significantly better in my mind than the PPU. But the shootability, a little bit less, but it was still pretty shootable. So looking at this, I'm not really sure you're gaining a lot by going to +P with the FBI load, unless you're going to a 4-inch barrel, because you pick up some recoil, but I'm not really sure I'm seeing enough difference in the terminal ballistics to matter. But when we look at something like gold dot of modern loading, yeah, that's a lot better than old school stuff. So interesting overall. So thank you again to Dan the Wolfman for sending this grip for me to put on this revolver. It actually felt pretty fantastic when I was shooting. That actually might be why I felt less recoil than normal, because the grip goes out further right here in the middle than what I'm typically used to with the stock grip. It's almost like, for me, it fits my hand absolutely perfectly. And I'm not just saying that just trying to brag because, you know, somebody sent me grips for free. I'm legitimately saying that the way that fits my hand, it like seals in my hand. There's no air gaps at all. So like there's no recoil, and it also makes it seem like the trigger press is a little bit easier because I'm not, you know, reaching or pulling back because of more airspace in my hand. So I'd say for larger hands at least, that feels really, really good. So again, thank you to Dan for sending this grip and for sending that ammo. Very interesting test. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.